All right, folks, I'd like to call this public hearing to order, and if you would stand with me, and we'll do the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, folks, this public hearing is to discuss the increase in water rates only. I will read off the increases, and then if anybody has anything to say, you'll have your turn. Okay. Quarterly service charges for the meter is a 5/8" meter has gone from $30, we proposed $40. The 2" meter, $75 to $125. The quarterly consumption charges for 1,000 gallons, residential $6.50 to $8.50, commercial $5.50 to $7.50, industrial $4 to $6, public authority $5 to $7, and those are the only changes. Does anybody want to discuss these water rates? No, then I guess this public hearing is over. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're done with that. Now, we'll go right into the town meeting. Okay, we'll call this town meeting to order. I think we can forego the pledge because nobody's new here. So what I'd like to do at this point is ask for a motion to select a moderator.
Make a motion to select Link.
Second.
Okay. With that being said, I would like to accept another motion to select a moderator. Not being heard, I'll ask a third time to have a motion to select a moderator. Glenn Cooper, will you accept the moderator's position?
I will.
Okay.
I have a copy of this.
Can I give it to you after I read it?
Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm sorry. That was my next topic. Yep,
Sorry.
that's okay.
Thank you, everyone. Good evening. The first order of business for the moderator would be to ask the clerk to read the call of the meeting.
Town of Sterling notice of public hearing and special town meeting. The Sterling Board of Selectmen has scheduled a public hearing for Wednesday, December 17th, 2025 at 7 p.m. in the Sterling Town Hall, room number 15, 1183 Plainfield Pike, Oneonta, Connecticut, to consider revised fees for connection with and the use of the Town of Sterling's municipal water supply system, which fees will be made effective on January 1, 2026. The proposed municipal water company user fees dated November 5th, 2025 are available for review on the town website at www.sterlingct.us, and copies are also available for review in the office of the Sterling Town Clerk during normal business hours. At the public hearing, all interested persons may speak and submit written communications regarding the proposed fees. The electors and citizens qualified to vote in town meetings of the Town of Sterling are also hereby notified and warned that a special town meeting will be held immediately following the conclusion of the public hearing to consider and take action on the following questions. 1. Shall the town adopt the proposed municipal water company user fees as set forth in the proposals dated November 5th, 2025? Number 2. Shall the town transfer $29,879 from the general fund to the Recreation Department capital account? Number 3, shall the town appropriate the funds of $63,500 quoted by Mark Finley Jr. for the installation of drop/suspended ceiling, removal and replacement of electrical fixtures job to come out of the facilities maintenance account. Sterling Board of Selectmen.
Thank you, Heather. Question number one, do I have a motion to adopt that question about the water rates increases for the water system?
Make a motion to approve.
Motion been made, do I hear a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded, that we approve the rates that have been adopted, rates that have been approved by the WPCA as well as the Board of Selectmen. Everyone care to, and I'll ask for a vote on that. Would you, raise your hands and all in favor, please? All opposed? The ayes have it. The vote passes.
Is
Would
it,
anyone care to abstain? I'm sorry, I forget to ask that question. Having no abstentions,
how many? I'm sorry, any numbers.
Oh, let's do it again.
Approve.
Everybody's approving? 12,
I approve.
13. Okay, thank you.
Motion carries. Move on to the second question. The second question, shall the town transfer $29,879 from the general fund to the recreation capital account? Do I hear a motion to approve?
Are we gonna have a discussion about the items?
I'm sorry, what's that?
Are we gonna have a discussion
We're
about?
gonna have a discussion after we have the motion to approve and second it. Do I hear a motion to approve the question? So moved. Motion is made. Do I hear a second to that?
I'll second it.
You hear seconding the motion? Motion is made and seconded that we transfer the amount of $29,879 from the general fund to the recreation department capital account. Now I have opened up to discussion. Steve?
I don't know why we're doing that. It seems to me, that if we had a legitimate reason for, like a legitimate project that would help the town, then that would be something that we could discuss. But I think just transferring $29,000 into the capital account isn't a prudent use of that money. I was present here for the last budget meeting we have, and for the Board of Finance meeting that we had for the last budget. Everybody was here, the Board of Education was here. And, everybody from the town, the officials were here, plus some other town members. And there was a big fight over $27,000 shortfall for the Board of Education.
Yeah.
There was people screaming at the board, telling them that they hate children because they wouldn't give them $27,000.
Wasn't a pleasant evening.
It was a knockdown drag out. But here we are, we're just gonna throw 29 grand into capital account. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I think it would be more prudent for that to go into the general fund. If we have a legitimate reason, a real tangible legitimate reason that is good for the town that we can discuss, that's one thing, but it doesn't make sense that we're gonna be just tossing that money into that account. So I'm gonna vote no for that.
Duly noted. Any other comments for discussion on that issue? If you're not aware of what's happened here, the Recreation Department in the fiscal year 24-25 was asked to raise $75,000 in fees, including things like rentals and all kinds of other things. That was the number that was suggested they raised. Then in the 12-month period, they raised $104,000. Actually almost close to 105. That's the $29,000. It's almost, well, let's call it 30 because that's what it's closer to than anything else. They raised $30,000 more than their expected revenues were. The question has been asked by the Recreation Department if they could take that money, that $29,879, and put it into their capital account, which exists already. So that's what they felt as though in the future, if they needed to have some money to do a special project above and beyond the daily running of the Recreation Department. We're not talking about paying salaries, we're not talking about paying for refreshments for the after-school program. We're talking about additional things. And I can give you one example. Actually, I can give you two. Several years ago, money was taken from the recreation capital account to buy the flagpole down at the Neil Cook Park. When we decided to name that park Neil Cook, we decided it needed a flagpole. The recreation department, who was in charge of that park, came up with the money. That was about $2,400, and that paid for that flagpole. That's the type of thing that they would like to be able to have money on hand to do. And they felt as though since they raised this extra money, they should have the money in their account. And that's it in a nutshell. Does anyone can make a comment? Yes, Stephanie?
I think we've done a round robin with this repeatedly over the past several months. It's not extra money. It's over and above what their expected revenue was, which is great. However, it's a $200,000 municipal department that's costing the taxpayers $200,000. If you give 29,000, almost 30,000 back to the rec department, that makes their budget 230,000. So I think the point is, if you want to put a flagpole up, great, let's talk about it, let's take it out of the general fund, maybe put it in the capital account, I don't know, but to just have it sitting there. They just spent $8,000 out of that account for out-of-state buses because our bus drivers wouldn't drive for the field trips. I think those are things that need to be discussed because, you know, we've had all these budget talks, people get upset about the nickel and diming, and here we are wanting to add to the nickel and diming.
Okay, duly noted. Just a quick comment on the buses. Those buses that Stephanie just referred to would be the buses that we needed to transport the children to various events throughout the summer recreation program. And the reason we had to hire buses from Rhode Island was because we couldn't get buses from Sterling. And that wasn't the case in each time. It's just that several times we did have a couple of drivers who would do occasional trips, but there are several trips made during the summertime for the recreation program, sometimes as many as 2 a week. And even though we have a fleet of 13 buses, we couldn't get the drivers to commit. That would be our Sterling drivers, with the exception of 2. So it didn't always work out that those 2 drivers could operate the same day, and yet you have to have 2 buses to carry kids elsewhere. So that's why the buses had to be hired. It's just one of those, we have discussed that with the superintendent of the schools. Jason and I have had that discussion. We discussed it with him and bus coordinator, and those discussions really didn't lead anywhere. Because one way or the other, the bus drivers are unionized. They can decide if they want to work extra or not work extra. And you just completely at a loss. You can't force them to do anything, is what it amounts to.
Then don't do the
So,
trip.
with that,
Then don't do the trip.
well, that's the other option. Don't do the trip.
I'm just saying, again, because that is a very large budget for one of the departments within the town. And we just seem to keep wanting to add to it. And I think if it was generating $200,000 to offset their budget, awesome. Okay, now what are we making over that? Put that in a general fund. But what? I just think we need to be a little more prudent.
Yeah,
Judy, would you care to comment?
sure. So their revenues were 40% higher than they expected to be. How was the $75,000 in revenues arrived at?
I wish I had an answer for that question. I've asked that question several times because it seems like someone had to come up with an arbitrary figure of $75,000. I don't have an answer for that question. I wish I did. I could make one up, but that's not gonna do it. Whatever it was, that was the number that I'm assuming the director and the treasurer came up with for an estimated amount of revenue. I don't know any other way I could have done, but one way or another, they exceeded it by $29,879.
And that's part, I think it's part of the issue is that it does seem, what was the word you just used? It doesn't seem like there was a lot of logic that went into, you know, when you're calling that extra money, it's not really extra money, like I always said, it's town money. It is the town's money, and it needs to be spent prudently, and I think that's the bottom line. I just hope we're not, like I said, we're pinching pennies when it comes to budget time, but we seem to be spending money a little bit too easy when it's not budget time. Maybe we should try to tighten up our belt a little bit all year long, so when budget time comes, it's not quite so, not trying to split hairs when that time comes.
Anyone else care to comment on this? Neil?
If this was approved, what's the control process for how it gets spent? Like who finally approves whether, if he wants to buy another flagpole, let's say, where's the approval process?
The Board of Selectmen.
Okay,
The Board of Selectmen is the oversight committee for the Board of Recreation, Board of Recreation Department.
Wow. So once the money goes into their capital account, into the recreation capital account, that's the only place it can be spent?
Correct, just like we have several other capital accounts in town. Recreation, we have one for education, for equipment, we have one for computers, we have one for building maintenance, we have several different accounts altogether. Now we have one for road improvement. The only way that money can be spent is on those specific topics. And so this money, if it were transferred to their capital account, could only be spent on projects that had reference with the Recreation Department through the approval of the Board of Finance. I will say one more thing about this. This subject was brought up about 3 months ago, and the Board of Finance did give their blessing to this whole thing. Just for the record, they decided that this was okay to do. Just to balance that, you know, throw a little bit something else out there. Holly, you have a question?
Yeah, I do have a question. As far as the regular recreation budget is concerned, would they be able to take from the capital budget for any kind of supplies or anything that the children don't have? No, that would be for the bigger projects, correct?
My understanding is the capital account is not for everyday expenses.
Okay, because I'm under the impression that they don't necessarily have what they need for everyday expenses.
They have line items in their budget.
Yeah, but I'm talking about equipment and stuff like that for kids to.
I think they have a line item for equipment.
All I can tell you is that any way that money, any expenses, not the everyday
No,
expenses, I'm talking about
Yeah,
anything
above and
additional,
beyond.
would be out of the ordinary, if you'd like to use that term, have to be approved by the Board of Selectmen.
It looks like somebody's. I don't know how this works. Is this us with our hand up? Where do you see the one
I've never
participant?
had that happen before. Can you click on participants?
Somebody has a question?
We don't do this during town meetings.
Okay.
I just have one more question.
So during a town meeting, we can't accept guests
They
even
can
for
look.
questions? But
They
can't ask
can
questions.
view.
But they can't ask questions,
No,
they
they
can't
can't.
participate.
No,
We're sorry, you can watch, but you can't participate.
One more question, I'm sorry.
Yes, that's right.
If money wants to be spent from that capital account over the 20,000 that needs Board of Finance approval, do they still have to go to the Board of Finance, or is that still a selectman approval process?
My understanding of how that works would be, if they, let's just say that the figure was $10,000. They needed to spend it on something they felt was justified. They would come to the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Selectmen would say yes or no. If that figure goes over 20, obviously you have to go through them, then Board of Finance.
Yeah, that was my question.
Okay, I don't see it any way around. That $20,000 seems to be like a threshold number.
Yeah.
Get to that or beyond it, have to go to the Board of Finance.
Right, I was just clarifying. Thank you.
I'm gonna ask for a motion to move the question, unless someone else has a comment, you're more than willing to listen. Do I have a motion to move the question to a vote? Asking for a motion.
I'll make that motion.
I mean,
I make that.
do I hear a second to that motion? Motion is made and seconded, we have to vote on that. All in favor of moving the question to a vote, signify by raising your hands. All opposed? Vote carries. Now we can go ahead and vote on the issue. Shall the town of Sterling transfer $29,879 from the general fund to the Recreation Department capital account? All those in favor, raise your hand. You count, Heather?
I'm counting 7. Is that correct? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
All those opposed to the, please raise your hand.
1, 2, 3, 4.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I count 6. You count 6? And what would be the tally? 7 in favor, 6
7
opposed?
in favor, yeah. Yes.
In that case, the vote carries. Number 3 on our list is shall the town appropriate the funds $63,500 quoted by Mark Finley Jr. for the installation of drop dash suspended ceiling, removal and replacement of electric fixtures, and the money for the job would come out of the facilities maintenance account. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve.
Motion made to approve. Do I hear a second to that? Motion seconded. Discussion of any kind.
Can you explain that? This is the first ever electrical components to this project. What are the electrical components that need to be replaced?
Lights in the first of all, let's explain to everybody so everybody knows what we're talking about. There are 4 rooms on that side, that wing. We have the senior center occupies 2 of those rooms. The clothing bank occupies 2 of those rooms. And there's a 5th room around the corner which has up until recently been called the story hour room. In the 4 rooms along the wall, those are rooms all in the older section of the building, and they have electric lights there, obviously now. But if the ceilings were put in, if the drop ceilings were put in, those lights would be removed, and the lights would be put into the ceiling itself. That's where the electric comes in, okay? It would be one smooth ceiling with lights, hanging in the ceiling itself. I can even give you the name of the picture if you want, that's okay, everyone. This project started right after we had the roof repaired. The roof was repaired about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. It leaked in several places. We spent about $220,000 on the roof and got the whole roof on the building completely renewed, which of course stopped the leaks that were causing the ceilings to deteriorate. The ceilings have just been left since that time with the hope that we could do something with them. All 4 ceilings are affected one way or the other, and something should be done with each one of them. I asked several people, including the Board of Selectmen at the time, and I also asked the building official, give me your estimate of what you think the appropriate way to do this job would be. What would be the method that you chose? Every person said the very same thing. Don't play around with what's up there already. Put in a drop ceiling, suspended ceiling with grids and panels and lights in the ceiling. With that information, we went out to bid. And the first bid that we got was from an outfit out of Norwich that came at $96,000, which we all thought was extremely high. We rejected that bid completely. That was the only bid we got when we took one out to bid the first time. With that information, we went out to bid a second time. And we got 2 bidders to bid on it. One was $64,500, one was $63,500. We chose the lower rate, the lower one, and that's what brings us to where we are right now. That job would involve hanging a new ceiling in each case, removing the lights, obviously. The lights are now hanging from the ceiling on conduit. Remove the lights, put in new ceilings and put the lights into it. The wiring can stay the same as it was. The switches on the wall can stay the same as they were because nothing needs to be changed. It's just a matter of what kind of light you put in the power to. Ceiling tiles would be fire retardant and they would be insulated, which automatically jacks up the price of the tile. A typical tile, like the ones I was looking at, the ones in Jack's office this morning, have been there probably 30 years or 40 years. They're probably not fire retardant and they're probably not insulated. When you add those 2 elements, that changes the price of the tile considerably. That accounts for a lot of this expense. So that's where we are. I think it would be a major improvement. There's one other thing that would be a plus. When you drop the ceiling in those rooms a foot, obviously you have to deal with that unit because there's 2 of them and there's several of them involved. That would be worked out so they would be handled, that could be removed later on. And they're not going to block those off, obviously. You're dropping the ceiling in a foot, so up there, all those rooms are about this size. If you did the measuring on this room, it's around 750 square feet. If you drop the ceiling a foot, that's 750 cubic feet that you're no longer heating because you've got a drop ceiling. You multiply that 750 times 4, and now you have 3,000 cubic feet that you're not heating any longer. And then you add a little bit more for the other room, which is about half the size of the others. So there are reasons to do it. I know the price is high. It's just that the price of any building material is very, very high these days. And every time I go to Lowe's and buy something in carpentry, I am shocked. But anyway, it's an outgrowth of that. We can't do a thing about that. But I do think the process would be a very good project to do. I think we would all be, the town hall would definitely benefit from it, and there would be some savings in heat. So I'm going to ask that, we are at, want to need to move the question, correct? Motion made,
I have some more questions.
yes,
What were the reasons that I'm not sure who you spoke to, but what were the reasons that were given as to not just replace the tiles that are already there?
it's a cleaner operation all the way around the line. It's something easier for a contractor to put in. I can't say the exact reason for it. It's just that all four of those people, the three selectmen, well, I take myself out of the equation. The other two selectmen and, the building official all said it's really the only way to go, because it's a much more efficient way to do it. I would have to use the term efficient.
And do you have to then, you have to reposition?
No, that stays where it is. They're gonna fix the ceiling tile right around it. They'll fix it so that it's take a little doing. I'm not gonna say it won't, but it'll take a little doing, but they can do it.
It doesn't make sense to me that spending $63,000 to put in a drop ceiling is that much more of a benefit than just replacing the tiles that are already there.
Okay, well, that's an opinion. I appreciate that.
Well, I'd like, I can be convinced otherwise, I don't understand why that's such a.
I don't have any
How big
other
an
arguments.
advantage
I'm gonna give you everything I have.
$63,000 worth that, what the advantages are for that? Why can't we just replace the tiles that are there? Maybe there is an answer, I don't know what it is, it's just kind of.
Well, the only answer that I was given was efficiency, that's all. Efficiency in terms of installation and what you're gonna wind up with. I can't expand on that because I don't know any more about it than that.
Did the contractor say that, or your building?
Building official said that, and both of the selectmen looked at it and said the same thing, and I agree with them. So,
That just
any other comments that can make about this?
doesn't make any sense.
Well, isn't it just it's gonna save us money in the long run? on
I
our
would think it
heating
would.
And our cooling bills.
I would think so.
One foot of the ceiling heating, you're not gonna make up $63,000.
It may not make a big difference.
Not in a year, no.
Not ever,
I dare say that,
it's not.
anyway, this is the question before us. Are there any other comments that you'd like to make, anyone? If not, I'm gonna ask for a motion to move the question to a vote. Do I hear a motion to move the question? Motion to move the question, do I hear a second? Motion is made and seconded. All in favor of moving the question to a vote, please raise your hand. Down hands, please. All those not in favor of moving the question to a vote? Then we will go ahead and vote. Shall the town appropriate the fund $63,000 ordered by Mark Finley for the installation of drop/suspended ceiling, removal or replacement of the electrical fixtures, and the money to come from the facilities maintenance account? All in favor of that motion? You count? Motion, do all not in favor, all opposed to the motion? I count two. Motion carries. Since we have conducted all of our business tonight, Mr. Chairman, I'm gonna resend it back to you.
All we need now is, I'd like to have a motion to adjourn. Second? Second. All in favor? All right. Motion carried, we're adjourned. Thank you, Lynn.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Jack, come on, do you want to say that? Pretty sure you.
Yeah, good.
No, I.